Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain, where I'm actually enjoying a cup of tea this evening. With the weather changing here lately, my throat has been just a little bit sore, so I'm trying to go ahead and stave it off and treat it with something warm and soothing. Now, I love coffee, I drink that all day long, but as we wind down the day, I thought, well, maybe I'll have a little bit of chamomile tea and try to go ahead and make sure my throat is kind of ready for tomorrow. But we're diving into books as we do on this channel, and today we are talking about The Shattered King by Charlie N. Holmberg. And I'm very excited to talk to you guys about this book because I really enjoyed it. Now, it is The Shattered King #1 because I do believe there is another one coming out called The Half-Hearted Queen, I believe. Now, I don't know when. I could probably click and find out, but we're going to talk about this one first, and maybe towards the end of the review, I'll dive in a little further to the second one, because we do end on a pretty big cliffhanger for this book. And I did submit my review earlier today on Goodreads. I did go ahead and give it, I want to say I gave it 5 stars. Now, I probably did give it 4.5, but if I'm giving it 4.5, I go ahead and round up. It's only when I do a 4.25 that I will sometimes round down to 4. But if I like it enough, well, since they only let me do whole stars, I'll go ahead and be generous with those. But let's dive in. A captive healer and a mysterious prince are drawn together in the midst of war and magic in a beguiling dark fantasy by Wall Street Journal best-selling author Charlie N. Holmberg. The kingdom of Cancer is on the brink of war. Young men are conscripted from their homes, and a royal decree from the Queen has made healing the only legitimate form of craftlock. Nim, a healer and beekeeper, is the sole provider for her family of 7, now that her younger brother has been sent to the war front. But when a letter comes from the Queen, summoning Nim to the palace to heal Prince Ren, the kingdom's ailing shut-in, that's Prince Ren, Nim finds herself making a tumultuous journey from her family's apiary. I think an apiary is like a beekeeping home, to the capital city. Nim is determined to fail the Queen's mission and return to her younger siblings as soon as she can. But escaping the castle's hold isn't as easy as failing a simple test. Prince Ren is cold and distant, and his illness is nothing like that Nim has ever seen before, nothing she could have ever imagined treating. In a moment of connection with Prince Ren, Nim manages to remedy the faintest symptom of ailment, only to discover that no healer before has made even such progress. Forced to become the prince's official healer and a ward of the castle, and with her only hope of returning to her family hinging on the prince's recovery, Nim must navigate the castle's cruel and twisted court and uncover the haunting truth behind Prince Ren's illness, even as she finds herself irrevocably drawn to him. Now, it is, of course, fantasy, and if you've ever read any of Charlie N. Holmberg's, you will know that she does do a pretty good job with romance and romantasy. There always seems to be a little bit of romance and romantasy in, well, okay, I'm going to say most of her books. I've read most of her books, but I cannot 100% say I've read all of them. But I think if I were to look through her, it says she's got 52 books, and I would assume some of those may potentially be translations that I would have read at least 80% of them. I first picked her up when The Paper Magician came out and loved it. Of course, you've kind of got a mentor-mentee situation. There's not a huge age difference, but they're both legal, so there's nothing untoward about it, but there is kind of a mentor-mentee sort of relationship, and very cute. Kind of a little bit of Howl and Sophie in Castle and I was going to say Castle in the Sky, but that's not right. That's a different Miyazaki movie. Howl's Moving Castle. Sorry. But this particular book does find Nim, who she's a good healer. She's kind of known around her area as being a good healer. If someone else can't really help you, then Nim can usually help you. Um, and there's kind of a reason for that, but I don't want to divulge it. But the queen gets wind that Nim is a healer, at least in some respect. So the queen summons Nim to come to the castle to try her hand at healing Prince Ren. So in this particular world, there is what they call craft lock. Craft lock is like a person's innate magical abilities, and sometimes it can kind of grow later in life. Well, Nim has kind of almost always had this healing ability, and it's the only one that's legal. Other kinds of craft lock, such as like getting into people's minds and such, are not legal. So reading people's thoughts could potentially be very, very a bad idea. But it also does seem that most people only get one form of craft lock. Well, she gets summoned to the palace, and she's a little nervous because now she has to leave her siblings kind of to fend for themselves. Her parents have passed, and one of her sisters has passed, and her other brother is at war. But she is kind of one of, I want to say, seven. I don't know if there's seven still remaining, or she is like nine of nine. But anyway, there's quite a few of them. And so she's just really worried that they're not going to be able to do well without her. So she has this plan that she's going to go. She's going to kind of touch the prince, look at his lumen, which is and I picture it kind of like a portal into someone's soul is what it kind of seems like, because when she enters, nobody's lumen is the same as other people's lumen. And so some people's lumen could look like a garden. Some people's lumen could look like a shelf of books. And so it can look like just about anything. Well, Prince Ren's seems to be a beautiful disaster. It seems to be utterly shattered, where for most people, she can kind of see a darkness, threads of the thing that's like kind of broken, or I don't want to say malformed, but ailing. And she's able to quickly fix it with a bit of her magic, kind of using a bit of her will and what have you, that kind of does this craft lock. And then she's able to almost put them back together from the inside out. So once she removes herself then from the lumen, that person is healed. So there's a couple people that she fixes their lower back, or fixes something in their leg that maybe has prevented them from like walking well, or maybe their hip. So she's able to do all these things. She's even able to remove scars if someone has a scar. Now, I think if someone is missing a limb, like say you cut off a leg, well, that piece of their lumen is gone. She's not able to heal it. However, if you leave the leg, even if it's damaged, and that does happen in the book, that she is able to go in, and as quickly as she can, she rebuilds that lumen to the point that that person will be whole and functional once she has finished. So she's a very good healer. And again, there's a little secret behind that, but I'm going to try not to divulge that too much. Well, when she dives into Prince Ren, he is so different than anybody else's lumen that she's ever seen. Not only does it seem to be utterly beautiful, it is broken beyond repair. Think of dropping a box of glass Christmas ornaments all over the floor. At least that's how I picture it. Because she kind of starts building them like baubles. That's Baubles, baubles. Yeah, I think that's right. Not bubbles. And if my speaking does not pick that up very well, then I'm very sorry. But I picture his lumen to, I guess, potentially look like it should be a bunch of what I think of as Christmas ornaments hanging about and all like kind of together in just this beautiful crystalline bauble sort of chandelier. And yet every single piece of it is utterly broken. So when she first enters his lumen, she touches his forehead or touches his temple, and well, she touches different parts, temple or wrist or what have you. It just doesn't matter what part she touches. What she does is she reaches down inside of his lumen, finds a couple pieces that kind of fit together, puts them together, puts it back down, and she kind of comes out and she's like, well, I don't know. I don't think I can really do anything. It's an utter disaster in there. Well, as she turns to kind of walk away, Prince Ren is able to move one of his toes. And this is the first time this has ever happened. So, though she was determined to fail, she absolutely accidentally succeeded. And now she is conscripted to the court. She doesn't want to be there. They are not paying her. She is barely more than a captive slave. She is literally there to do their bidding and receive almost nothing in return. And they pretty much hold it over that if she doesn't do it, then her family will suffer also because of her. So now she's kind of like, well, I have to because I don't want my family to suffer. But if I stay here, my family will suffer. So she's kind of got like that rock and a hard place sort of situation going. And the thing is the longer she spends with Prince Ren, of course, this is where the little bit of romance is happening. Kind of a slow burn thing, I would absolutely say. They are drawn to each other, but it takes a lot for Prince Ren to come around to being human. And I say that in that way because he's royalty. He's been, I guess, treated with kid gloves his entire life. And he, at first, has this perception that, well, I'm royalty, so you're supposed to do what I say. Well, Nim is very sharp-tongued and very willing to say those things that he needs to hear. And ultimately, as he starts to gain use of his legs and walk around, he sees how wrong he's been with his treatment of not only her, but others in his kingdom that he's come across. So there is a lot of growth on his part as well. And she starts to also kind of understand a little bit more about him and the life he's had to live as this very broken prince. So it can't be easy for either of them to really make changes in who they each are. So, of course, she's doing her best. Now, with most people that she heals, once she heals them, they are good. She doesn't have to come back and do touch-ups. Well, Prince Ren is so very different. There is something that her magic just does not stick. Now, he doesn't ever fully break back down to where she first met him, where he loses the use of his limbs. But there will be moments where he starts like hacking, coughing, or loses like his breath or passes out. And she has to go back into his lumen in almost an emergency triage situation and repair the things that she has already put together. It's like they keep falling. It's like something is just preventing it from staying together. So we do kind of learn that perhaps there is something magical going on, and she's not sure if it's someone else. She's not sure if it's, like what it is, but she does quickly realize that there's no way he could have survived with his lumen being the way it was, but also this is a far different cry from just, a broken leg or a bad hip or even cancer. It seems to be that it is worse than any of that, and she can't figure out the source. So I don't want to give you any spoilers towards the ending, but I will let you guys know that there's a very big reveal, a very big aha moment, a very big what sort of moment towards the end. Nim also doesn't make too many friends while she is in the castle. There is a medical doctor who really sees her as, of course, competition. She has been the only person who has been able to make any progress for Prince Ren. So this medical doctor, who is really more about like ailments and sicknesses and stuff, well, why would they need him if she can just magically go into anybody and fix them without this medical knowledge? So he's a little hot under the collar. He is quite angry. The queen is also not her friend either, because the queen, of course, has this holier than thou sort of mindset where she says, do my bidding, do what I tell you to do, and I will let you live. Even though she doesn't seem to fully comprehend that Nim is really the reason why her son is making as much progress as he is. She sees it more as Nim just should be doing this instead of being appreciative of what Nim is doing for them. So the queen is not very nice. I do think the king seems fairly amenable. He's not as hateful as it seems. When it, like, the queen seems to be quite hateful. So just kind of throwing that out there. And then there are a couple individuals as well who are, sorry, I'm trying to scroll a little bit and it was like it kept getting laggy. But there's a couple people who do become her friends, or at least allies. And of course there's her and Prince Ren, who have their like slow burning romance that builds pretty much. Not from the very beginning, because right from the very beginning, she is just so done with royalty. She wants nothing to do with them, like, whatsoever. But she is a really good character, and I think that's something Charlie and Holmberg does very well, is these witty spitfire female characters, ones who are pretty strong in their in knowing who they are, and then or strong enough to be able to accept that they need to change. And there's been a couple characters as well who have started out one way and then have made a complete 180 change because they themselves needed some level of growth. And to put them through those paces, I think Charlie and Holmberg does a fantastic job. But for being a romantasy, now it's not cozy, and it's not quite as what I would say dark fairy tale as T. Kingfisher is. I would put her closer to that category of T. Kingfisher and Naomi Novik with regards to this particular story. My other critique is probably that it's a little bit slow at the beginning, but it does build. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it there because I know I've rambled on for just a little bit, and I want to encourage you all to try to find a Charlie and Holmberg book that you would like. I know I've talked about Wimbrel House. I don't think I've talked about any of the others, like the Paper Magician series, at least with regards to doing reviews. There's Star Mother, I think, is one, and I think that's a duology with another book, something Father. There is Followed by Frost. There is, there's quite a few. There is quite a few. But going back, I did want to just look real quick and see when or if the next book of this series is coming out. And honestly, I'm not seeing it right off. And I know she has quite a few. So I just thought if I saw it that I would let you guys know. But I'm going to let you guys go instead because I know I've been talking for a minute, and I want to thank you all so much for joining me on this journey. If you have not liked and subscribed already, I certainly hope you will, and I will see you all on the next page. Have a great one. Bye.